For over 20 years, the Audi S4 has been the sports sedan of choice for enthusiasts looking for a daily driver that kind of slid under the radar. It was, of course, much quicker than your neighbor's Audi A4, but it didn't shout in the same way that its BMW and Mercedes rivals did with their shouty designs and flashy interiors. Now, when Audi introduced the all-new B9 generation S4 about 3 years ago, it didn't quite have the same kind of success with enthusiasts as the previous B8 generation. Audi replaced the supercharged V6 with a turbo engine, and its design was a very evolutionary change versus the previous generation model, which is why I'm out here in Palm Springs, California with Audi with the refreshed 2020 S4. Now, as you can see, it's got a completely new look in the front and the rear. Underneath the hood, Audi didn't make any changes, but you still have a 3-liter turbocharged V6 with making nearly 350 horsepower, coming standard with Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system. So the big question I want to answer, if you guys are an enthusiast looking for the perfect sleeper sedan, is the 2020 Audi S4 still worth a look? That's what we're here to find out. So of course, with an Audi S-Line product, I want to show you guys what's underneath the hood first, because I actually haven't had a chance to show you guys a review on the S4. I did an S5 a couple of years ago, but it was the 2-door coupe. This car has a standard 3-liter turbocharged V6. Remember, Audi replaced the old supercharged V6 from the previous generation with this motor, and it now makes 349 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you're keeping score of the numbers, when this car first came out in 2017, Audi said it made 354 horsepower. So apparently they've dropped it by about 5. Regardless, it still has more power than the old S4 and about 41 more pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through a standard 8-speed automatic, a torque converter automatic, which was an interesting change because the previous generation had a 7-speed dual clutch, which was optional, and you could get that car with a 6-speed manual. Now, of course, people don't really buy manuals anymore today. Now, it all goes through a standard Quattro all-wheel drive system. The Quattro all-wheel drive system has the ability to send up to 100% of the torque side to side when you guys go for the sport package. This one here has it with the sport differential. In normal driving, it will do about a 40-60 torque split. So of course, this car will give you kind of a more rear drive biased feel. Now, fuel economy, in case you guys are wondering, is actually not bad. It's rated at 20 in the city, 27 on the highway. Audi says you should get to 60 in around 4.4 seconds. This car is electronically limited to about 155 miles an hour. And as this one sits, it weighs just a tick under 3,900 pounds. So still a relatively heavy car, but it competes head on with things like the Mercedes AMG C43 and of course the BMW M340i. Now, closing the hood and looking at the styling changes for the 2020 S4, taking it all in, I actually didn't really like the way this looked when I first saw it in pictures. Now seeing it in person in this gray exterior color, I have to say Audi definitely made some right changes here, because the pre-refresh model really looked evolutionary. It looked like Audi was playing it very safe. You can see the styling changes are evident right when you stare at the front. The single frame grille, as you can see, has been enlarged. It also has this new insert in it with the hexagonal, 3-dimensional look with the chrome trim. If you guys don't like the chrome, you can kind of switch it out with the black optics package, where Audi will kind of black all this out. The headlights are now full LED, which is standard. The pre-refresh model had a bi-xenon, which was standard. If you guys go up to the top trim Prestige or option in on the Premium Plus, you can get these matrix LED designed headlights, which again have Audi's new signature lighting on it. You also get a dynamic turn signal, which is nice. Audi got rid of the fog lights for this generation. Down here you can see this almost looks like a fog light, but it's actually just the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control. You have more of these air intake silver trim here and there, which again you can kind of paint black if you guys choose the black optics package. And overall, I really like the changes. I also like this kind of new area here on the grille, which kind of makes it look like it has like a bulging hood, although this is not even a functional air vent. You can see it's kind of closed off. But overall, let me know in the comments below what you think of the design. Is it an improvement over the pre-refresh model, or do you think Audi made the car look worse for the 2020 model year? Now, looking at the rest of the profile, because this is just a refresh, you can see the actual profile of the S4 hasn't changed. But you can see the car is still on the longer end of the segment. It's wheelbase at 111 inches long and about 187 inches long overall. This is a little bit longer than a 3 Series, than a C43 AMG, and a little bit longer than something like a Tesla Model 3, because as you guys know, in this segment, you could also compare this to the electric Tesla Model 3. With a refresh, there's typically new wheels, and as you can see here, this particular one has a rather plain Jane look to the wheels. It's like a 19-inch design, which this is the biggest wheel that you can get on the S4. If you guys are looking for a 20, Audi doesn't offer it on the S4. You have to step up to the S5 where they offer a really nice black accented 20-inch wheel. These wheels are $1,000 extra. As you can see with the sport package for $2,500, they roll in these red painted calipers with the larger brakes. So I would highly go for that because it really makes the car look a little bit more sporty. The S4 in general is about an inch lower versus the regular A4. So again, it gives this car a much nicer looking stance. The mirrors, as you can see here, if they're silver painted or they're kind of aluminum capped, this is also how you can tell that this is an S4 because of the silver painted mirrors. Surprisingly, Audi doesn't offer a panoramic sunroof on this car. I was expecting them to offer that, or at least a half-size sunroof, but you just kind of have a standard size sunroof on this particular one. And then coming over at the rear, you can see the design is pretty subtle, the changes. The taillights have their new signature lighting element with the dynamic turn signals. You have this really tasteful rear lip spoiler, which again makes this car look more grown up, yet also subtly sporty. And then over here, there's a little bit more chrome trims, more silver trim over here. And then in an S4 product, you typically have nice looking exhaust, and Audi didn't cheap out here with the fake exhaust that you find on other products. These are their quad outlet real exhaust, which I'll let you guys hear what the engine sounds like real quick. And as you guys heard, it sounds relatively nice, but I'm really sad to see that it has a very low, like 3,500 RPM limiter, which we'll go into the test drive later on. We'll hear more of that lovely engine. Now, opening up the trunk, Audi offers this car an S5 Sport Pack, and if you guys need more trunk capability, you might as well go for that because this trunk is pretty small. It's only rated at around 12 cubic feet of space. That's smaller than something like a Honda Civic or even like a Toyota Yaris has more space in the trunk. So I'm a little disappointed to see that. The trunk does fold down, it looks like in a 60/40 manner, which is nice, and there's also a pass-through. And then the trunk itself is pretty usable in terms of space, but just keep in mind if you guys are needing more space, you might want to consider the S5 Sportback because that offers the hatchback versatility. Okay. So hopping into the interior of the refreshed S4, you can see it looks pretty much the same as the pre-refreshed model, but the thing that's going to stick out the most is that new infotainment system, which is now larger. It's a 10.1-inch size display, which is now standard. The old S4 offered either a 7-inch or an 8.3-inch display. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it's the typical Audi key fob. It has even an S badge there to show that you've bought the S4 as opposed to just the A4. To start it up, it starts up with that nice little growl that you expect from an Audi S-Line product, and actually, it does have like an active sport exhaust. So if you start playing with the drive modes here, I'll go into dynamic. You can hear it gets a little bit louder when it goes into dynamic. And there's the really low rev limiter, but I am very much looking forward to driving this because it just has a really nice muted, understated growl. Now shutting the door, which it doesn't have soft closed doors, I didn't slam it hard enough. It has a pretty solid thunk, which again, Audi products typically feel very solid, very German, and this car is definitely no exception. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, you can see the S4 has some nice styling elements in here to kind of differentiate it from an A4. The first thing you're gonna notice right away are these seats. These are the optional fine Napa leather seats with kind of the red accents here, a red interior. I love these red seats. It also comes with a massage function on the front seats, and that's actually standard, which really surprised me. It's the same thing that Audi does on the S5 Coupe that I had a couple of years ago. The seats themselves are heated. They're like a 10-way power adjustment on the driver and passenger. You get a 2-person memory. The only thing that bothers me about this car and the S5 is if you want cooled seats, you have to add in a warm weather package, but then Audi doesn't offer the cooled seats with this red leather, which is really disappointing, and they also take away the massage function if you guys go for the cooled seat package. So you kind of have to make a choice here, which I don't like because some of the competitors like the BMW and the Mercedes offer you that choice and that customization, which is I think what a lot of luxury buyers are demanding. So I'm hoping Audi will fix that eventually and offer us cooled seats with this beautiful red seat option, which again look fantastic. Looking at the rest of this interior, Audis in general have always had very strong interiors in this segment. And this one here is definitely very competitive, but it's no longer the most luxurious or stylish interior. I mean, you have this soft touch injection molded plastic here on the top of the dash. It feels relatively nice, but it doesn't have the full leather stitching that you can get on the BMW and then the Mercedes, the door panels are also the same thing. It's kind of a soft touch injection molded plastic. This particular one here has the carbon inlays for like an extra $300, which look good. It replaces the aluminum trim that you get on the standard car with the carbon. The window switches have that typical tactile, high quality feel. It's one touch automatic for all four, which is nice. Even the lower parts of the door panels are also soft touch. The Bang & Olufsen sound system this car has for like another $1,000 sounds incredible. I believe it has like 19 speakers. I highly recommend going for that option if you guys go for this interior. And then as you can see here from the screens, it has the next generation of Audi's virtual cockpit, which now has a full HD display. You can see with the S-Line cars, it's a slightly different look versus the regular A-Line cars. You can put the tachometer over there. You can actually change the way this looks. You can go into the menu and switch this out. This is the sport look for the gauges with that tachometer that kind of has that weird little boomerang shape. And if you want, you can change the view and put the nav screen up there, but then it gets rid of the actual tach and shows you a digital speed. Over here, this is the MMI Touch 3.0. It's the third generation. This is apparently the first Audi product to get this newest version of the screen. Now, of course, this is kind of similar to what I've shown you in something like the A6 or the A8 or the Q7. However, it doesn't have the two screen layout. So again, here's the home screen. It does have Apple CarPlay, although this car does not come with wireless Apple CarPlay, which kind of surprised me. You have to actually plug in use a cord. I don't know why Audi decided to do that. I feel like they should have just given us the wireless CarPlay as well. Going over to the navigation, you can see it's the Audi Google Earth display, which looks good. You can have both navigation screens over on the infotainment screen or in your instrument cluster. When you put the car into reverse, you can see this particular one does not have the 360 top-down camera that's included with the Prestige package, but you do have parking sensors front and rear. Audi does one of the best camera systems in the business, very crystal clear. It comes with things like rear cross traffic alert and front cross traffic alert. So again, lots of great features. It's basically what you expect in this segment. Over here, you can see the hard buttons remain because Audi didn't replace this with a screen. You have your heated seats over here, 3 levels. You can see there's an empty button here for the cooled seat if you get that option. This very nice screen here, which has kind of like touch sensitive controls on these toggles, which is nice. A few buttons here as well to go through your drive modes, which this car offers 3 drive modes if you want to switch around, or 4 drive modes if you include the individual. We'll go over that later on in the video. Lots of more buttons over here to turn off the auto start stop, the parking sensors, more storage over here where you have a cup holder, a little bit of storage here, and then over here you can see there's a big open cubby because this is where the old MMI interface was, where you had that controller and the wheel and the writing pad. So again, Audi went away with that and gave us a little storage cubby here, which will be good for your phone or keys, and then you kind of go into the touch response. The shifter here hasn't really changed. You still have this electronic shifter. This controls the 8-speed automatic. The steering wheel on the S4 also has a nice flat bottom design. It's definitely a nice grip. I like the perforated leather. The wheel itself, surprisingly, is not heated. I was kind of expecting that, although I think you can get that if you get a cold weather package, which is also available. And then over here on the center console, you can see it's covered with the same really nice leather. And when you open it, you can see there's another USB-C and a wireless phone charger. So there's still some features in here that you kind of expect in this segment, but it's not really very much in terms of storage, although I like the fact that they added that. The glove compartment is also a pretty big size. It's damped, it's lined with felt, so this is definitely going to make up for the smaller storage here in the center console. And then if you're looking for a pano sunroof, this car doesn't offer a pano sunroof. Instead, you just have a standard size sunroof over here, which is definitely nice, but I'm surprised that Audi doesn't offer that. I believe the S5 offers kind of that pano sunroof, so it's another reason why you'd want to choose that. So overall, the cabin is pretty nice, although it feels a little bit cozy in here at times, but I like some of the changes that Audi has made to this interior, especially that new infotainment screen where it's much bigger and much brighter in terms of its resolution. Now, hopping into the back seat of the S4, it has a pretty decent amount of space. Now, of course, if you've got friends that are a lot taller, the back seat may feel a little bit cramped. Audi says you get around 35.7 inches of legroom back here, which is pretty similar to what you get in something like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla. There is a fairly large hump here, so if you guys are trying to fit 3 people across, it's going to be a little bit tight. You get your own set of rear seat climate controls, vents, and then you get 2 USB charging outlets over here, but no heated rear seats, which I believe you could get if you guys go for like the cold weather package, which my tester is missing. I love the red leather seats in this car. They look really good even in the back. They have the same kind of diamond quilted leather with the contrasting stitching. It looks nice. And then if you fold down this little armrest here, you can see Audi gives you a little bit of storage right there, which is good. And then you can also open up this little cup holder area here, which is really weird in terms of how it opens. But so overall, the back seat is usable. Not the biggest if you got really tall friends, which is probably why Audi continues to offer something like the S6 or even the S8. So I've actually never done a video on the channel of an S4, and I've got Tommy, my drive partner here once again, to drive this thing. Let's try a quick launch control in this thing. Sport mode. Whoa! Okay. I wasn't expecting that, were you?
What was that?
Well, I let the boost build up to about 3,500 RPM, and Audi said that they didn't have launch control in this car, but because it has a regular 8-speed auto, but wow, that felt really good.
0 to 15 miles an hour.
That was pretty violent. I was pretty impressed. So Audi says 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. I've seen Motor Trend do like 4.2, which is pretty fast.
That is quick. And
Like-
we did 0 to 15 in like 0.01 there.
Now keep in mind, we also just got out of the Q7, which felt considerably slower because of all the additional weight. This is 1,000 pounds lighter, and you instantly feel that less weight that this car has. But Tommy, have you ever driven an S4 or an S5?
I have not driven an S4 or an S5.
Okay.
Have you driven an S4?
I drove an S5 and not an S4. I had some time in the previous generation one, the one with the supercharged V6. I mean, that one really just punched above its weight in terms of, you know, power. I mean, that was a car that did 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds back then, where everyone else was kind of like a second slower.
Yep.
Now this one does have the sport package, so it includes the sport differential. Let's just quick
You're good on my side.
floor it
Go
here.
quick. Well, that was kind of underwhelming compared to the first one.
It was. So you really need to build the boost on this car to feel the power. So you really have to build the boost for this car to feel the power. There's like a little bit of lag, you know, below 3,000 RPM, what I'm noticing. But once you build that boost and basically let it take off, this is a pretty fast car. So we're gonna do the launch control again later, because I definitely would like to do the launch control again for sure. In terms of, you know, how this car feels as a daily driver, I really appreciate how comfortable it is. It's pretty smooth. Like, I like the visibility here. I mean, this is a very traditional sedan. So if you're looking for that traditional sports sedan, the S4 still represents a huge chunk of that market. Although I will say that the Tesla Model 3 has really stolen a lot of this car's thunder. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, this is old school,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
it is
you've got a turbocharger and a sedan.
mhm.
I mean, two things that are, well, turbocharger is still very relevant, but the sedan seems to be kind of out of favor right now.
Right, so that's why Audi offers their S5 Sportback, which is probably something that I would get because it gives you that sleeker, you know, coupe-like shape. It gives you more trunk space in the back. It looks nicer. I mean, you can't get the bigger 20-inch wheels on the S4, which kind of makes me a little bit sad. I would prefer to get, you know, bigger wheels. These wheels look a little bit too soft for me,
Really?
but yeah, just I don't like the silver look. But, you know, in terms of just everyday driving, you know, even in sport, dynamic mode, the car's ride is still pretty compliant. Although on this road surface, I'm hearing a lot of road noise. Which,
Yes, there's definitely a little bit of a drone from the tires.
yeah, I wasn't expecting this much road noise, so I'll have to take it back in DC eventually when I go back and drive this thing again and see how it feels. But visibility is nice. I think the seats are also pretty comfortable.
Oh, they're awesome.
They hold you in place really nicely, but come on, Audi, why can't we get cool seats with this red leather? Like, I don't understand why they don't want to offer that, you know, that combination. Did you find the massage button, by the way?
I did find the massage
Okay.
button, which is quite strange in an S4 to have. Are you going for wave, need, or stretch?
I'm probably going to go for the need, but
Need.
but again, it's standard equipment on this car, and
Crazy.
good luck finding that in the BMW. They don't offer the massage seat, or a Tesla. You won't find the massage seat, and it actually does a pretty decent job. This is much better than like the Buick Regal GS that I had a few months ago that had the massaging seats, which literally just kind of inflated the bolster back and forth, which I just found to be extremely uncomfortable. Now, the one thing that bothers me about this car, driving it now, it's missing the dynamic steering option, and the steering is very light.
Okay.
Light and numb, and I want more feedback, which for $1,100, I probably would say tick that option if you guys are a serious enthusiast and you plan to take this thing to the track. I mean, the S4, I've never considered it to be like a track car. Like, this car is very much like a gentleman's like sports sedan. Like, you're coming out of something like a GTI or an SI, and you've gotten a huge pay raise at work. You want something nicer, but you also don't want to spend like $100,000 that your boss spent on.
Where are you working? We're getting $62,000 pay raise. That's awesome.
But I mean,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where the S4 has always, sat, like in the market. It's always had like the young professional that it's attracting, and even in the used car market, this thing is still, pretty popular in that regard. Now, I will say I do like the interior in terms of the changes. That new larger screen is a huge improvement.
Oh, so much better.
It's finally a touchscreen because Audi didn't do a touchscreen at first, so right, that was a huge improvement.
Yeah.
The virtual cockpit here, I didn't really have a problem with the pre-refreshed one, the old generation. So the fact that they've, updated it for 2020, I'm just kind of like, Audi at least is sticking or trying to stay ahead of the game with this car. What do you think of the sound of this thing?
There's not enough of it.
Let me go use the manual.
Are we in the dynamic mode?
Yeah, I'm in the dynamic already. Yeah, it's still
like it's a good sound, and you get a little bit of those kind of
a little bit of the pops. Yep.
Yeah,
a little bit. But again, I guess there's a reason why Audi wants you to go for the RS4, or if they offered it here, so the RS5 Sportback. But I will say, for just an 8-speed torque converter automatic, this transmission,
it's fast.
It's fast.
It's good.
It's weird because, we just got out of the 8-speed in the Audi Q7, which obviously a different car, which I didn't like the way that transmission was kind of lethargic in the way it shifts. This is just really, really nice. All right, just because we can, I definitely want to do another launch control because that was really fun. And this time we're kind of expecting it a little bit less, so let's try it here.
What the heck?
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
That's pretty fun. That's super fun.
And you can literally see the boost on this thing building as you let it build up. It goes up to almost max.
Can you do it one more time? I want to get it from the outside.
Yeah. So we're coming up on this curvy road here. Ooh. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, I like this car a lot. I'm a fan of that. So we're coming up on this curvy part of the road, and it's legit twisties, if you guys can see the nav screen here. And this is where I'm really wishing the car had the dynamic steering package, because I can't really feel what the front tires are telling me. It's incredibly light and numb, which is really good if you're in the parking lot and you're going really low speeds, but on a twistier road, I want a little more feedback. There isn't very much in terms of a visceral connection here. I mean, the tires on this car, I believe, had the Bridgestone Summer Potenza S001, so they have good grip. The chassis also feels relatively planted. There's a lot of road noise coming in here, but like the road surface isn't the best. But I will say that this car feels very secure. It feels understated and planted. And let's see here. I'm just trying to see if I can get it to understeer a little bit. It is really nice, actually.
How are the brakes?
The brakes, yeah, they work very well. So this has the upgraded brakes with, I guess, maybe like a high friction pad even, but...
You know why they work so well?
Why?
Well, because they paint the brake caliper red.
Red, it adds like extra braking power, right?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah, this is the kind of car that you really will enjoy driving to and from work, going out to dinner with your spouse, and then when you find a back road or a mountain road like this, you can kind of still have some fun as well in this thing. And it actually feels pretty lightweight too. I was expecting this thing to feel really heavy and a little boat-like, but because of the sport differential, it gives you that ability to just send power to the outside wheel, so you can kind of almost steer it with the throttle a little bit.
Which is something Audis are not usually known for.
No. And the transmission also does a pretty good job at staying in the gear that I want it to be, but it also has a pretty good manual mode if I needed to, or if I felt like taking control. God, this is just a really fun car. So just like the S5 Coupe that I drove a couple of years ago, the S4 has a lot to like, especially if you're an enthusiast that wants something a little bit faster and a little bit sleeker versus the A4 or A5 that your neighbor also drives. The extra 100 horsepower that you get from this V6 is a welcome addition. The V6 also sounds good, which is surprising to me because I also spent the day driving an Audi Q7 today, and that engine, which is kind of similar to this, just has no character at all versus this engine. Audi did a really great job with the exhaust. It has very classic Audi looks, yet It also doesn't shout out and scream that I'm going to be speeding or I'm going to be racing everybody. I don't particularly like the wheels on this particular S4. I think Audi offers a nicer wheel combination on the S5, which again, you can get a 20-inch wheel on that particular vehicle. The interior is still nice, comfortable, if a little bit small, but really where the sports sedan segment is kind of shrinking is because everyone nowadays is wanting a crossover, which is why Audi will outsell the S4 with the SQ5 instead. Now that car in general is not as fast as this car, doesn't handle quite as well, but is much more practical versus the S4. So really, my money would probably go toward an Audi S5 Sportback. I think that's the ultimate sleeper sedan. But if you must have a traditional sedan, there is definitely still something to like about this car. And I think this car is a little bit nicer for me to drive in terms of a BMW M340i. The C43 Mercedes would also be an interesting choice, but just keep in mind, you could also get a Tesla Model 3, which has been selling extremely well. It's quicker than this car, and it doesn't actually use any gas. Remember, it's all electric. Now that brings me to the final aspect of the S4, the price. This car is already on sale today, and it starts at around $49,900 for the base version. Now add about $7,000 for the prestige package that rolls in all the goodies that I was showing you here. This particular one here has the sport package, the gray color is a little bit more, the extra $1,000 for the red leather, and you're all in, you're looking at around $63,000 or just under 63. That is a significant amount of money, but it is less expensive than the BMW and Mercedes competition. But you could also look at something like the Tesla Model 3 Performance with all the options, including full self-driving. That car is about $65,000. It'll do 0 to 60 about a second quicker than this at 3.2 seconds versus 4.4. So really, the Audi RS4 would be a better competitor to that. However, price-wise, this is kind of right on top of that. So it's probably one of the reasons why this segment of vehicle is kind of shrinking, but Audi still does offer a lot to like about this car if you're looking for a very traditional kind of sleeper daily driver of a sedan. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Audi S4 sedan. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.